Hello there. It is a pleasure to have you here. Today, we are going to explore a journey that is entirely about you. Have you ever felt like there is a version of your life that is much bigger, brighter, and more exciting than the one you are living right now? Maybe you feel like you are standing on the edge of something great, but you just can't seem to make the leap. You might have these big, beautiful dreams, but there is a nagging voice in the back of your head telling you to play it safe or reminding you of all the times things didn't work out. If that sounds familiar, you are in exactly the right place. The core purpose of the book we are discussing today is to help you identify and break through the self-sabotaging beliefs and behaviors that stop you from getting what you want. It is about moving past the fear and the doubt so you can finally start living a life that actually excites you. We are looking at how to stop doubting your greatness and start living an awesome life. Throughout this summary, we are going to touch on a few high-level ideas that serve as the foundation for this transformation. First, we will look at how your subconscious mind, which was programmed when you were just a child, is often the thing holding the steering wheel of your life, even when you think you are in control. We will also talk about the concept of universal energy and how your personal frequency determines the kind of reality you create for yourself. Finally, we will explore the idea of perception and how changing the way you see yourself and the world can fundamentally shift your results. This approach, developed by author Jen Sincero, is designed to give you the tools to stop playing small. It is about recognizing that you already have everything you need to be successful, you just need to get out of your own way. By the time we finish, you will have a much clearer understanding of how to bridge the gap between where you are and where you truly want to be. Before we dive into the deep details of the main summary, if you find this content helpful, please take a moment to like this audio, share it with someone who might need a boost, and subscribe so you don't miss our future deep dives. Main summary: rewiring your reality for greatness. The power of the subconscious and the big snooze. To understand why your life looks the way it does today, we have to look beneath the surface. Most of us believe we are making logical, conscious decisions every day. We think we choose our jobs, our relationships, and our habits based on what we want right now. However, the book teaches us that our lives are actually run by the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is like a massive storage tank for every experience, belief, and emotion we encountered during our formative years. Between the ages of 0 and 6, we were like sponges, soaking up the beliefs of the people around us without any filter. If you grew up hearing that money is the root of all evil or that you should never stand out from the crowd, those ideas became your truth. These beliefs are now running in the background of your mind, like a silent operating system. The author refers to this collection of limiting subconscious beliefs as the big snooze. It is the part of you that wants to keep you safe, quiet, and comfortable. The big snooze operates on fear. Its only job is to maintain the status quo. This is why, when you decide to take a big risk, like starting a business or moving to a new city, you suddenly feel an overwhelming sense of dread or start making excuses to stay put. It is not that the risk is inherently bad, it is that your subconscious is trying to protect you from the unknown by pulling you back into your comfort zone. Understanding this is vital because it explains the why behind self-sabotage. You might consciously want to be wealthy, but if your subconscious believes that wealthy people are greedy, you will unconsciously find ways to get rid of money or avoid making it. To change your life, you have to wake up from this big snooze and begin the process of identifying these hidden scripts so you can rewrite them. Now we move to the next point, which connects our internal thoughts to the external world through the lens of energy and vibration. Tapping into universal energy and vibration. Once you recognize that your internal programming is shaping your reality, the next step is understanding the environment you are operating in. The book introduces the concept that everything in the universe is made of energy, including you, your thoughts, and the things you desire. This energy is often referred to as source energy or the universe. The key takeaway here is that energy vibrates at different frequencies. Your thoughts and emotions have their own specific vibrations. When you are feeling joyful, grateful, and confident, you are vibrating at a high frequency. When you are stuck in fear, worry, or guilt, your frequency is low. The universe operates on a like-attracts-like basis. If you are constantly vibrating at a frequency of "I don't have enough," the universe will continue to match that frequency by providing more situations where you don't have enough. This is why your vibe matters so much. It is not just about thinking positive thoughts, it is about reaching a state of belief where you feel as though what you want is already yours. This is what the author calls being a vibrational match for your desires. If you want to attract abundance, you must practice feeling abundant now, even before the money shows up in your bank account. This can be a difficult concept to grasp because we are taught to believe only what we see. But the book argues that we must believe it before we can see it. By aligning your energy with the version of yourself that has already achieved your goals, you start to pull those opportunities toward you. It is about moving from a state of wanting, which implies a lack, to a state of being, which implies fulfillment. For example, think about a person who is looking for love but is constantly complaining about how there are no good people left to date. Their frequency is tuned to lack and disappointment. Consequently, they continue to encounter situations that prove them right. To change this, they would need to shift their internal energy to one of love and appreciation, making them a vibrational match for the kind of partner they actually want to attract. Now we move to the next point, where we examine how our conscious focus and the practice of gratitude serve as the steering wheel for this energy. The transformative power of gratitude and focus. If universal energy is the fuel for your transformation, then your focus is the steering wheel. The book emphasizes that whatever you focus on, you create more of. Most people spend the majority of their time focusing on what they don't want, what they are afraid of, or what is going wrong. By doing this, they are effectively ordering more of those exact things from the universe. To combat this, the author suggests that gratitude is one of the most powerful tools we have. Gratitude is not just a polite thank you for the things you already have, it is a state of being that shifts your frequency instantly. When you are truly grateful, you are in a state of high vibration. You are focusing on abundance rather than lack. The practice of gratitude forces you to look for the good in every situation, which in turn changes your perception of your reality. Even in difficult times, finding something to be grateful for prevents you from sinking into the low vibration trap of the big snooze. It keeps your energy open and receptive to new opportunities. Furthermore, the book highlights that you should practice gratitude for the things you want as if they have already happened. This acts as a powerful signal to the universe that you are ready to receive. By focusing your mind on the end result with a heart full of gratitude, you bypass the fear and doubt that usually come with chasing a big goal. You stop worrying about how something will happen and instead stay focused on the fact that it is already on its way. Focusing your mind requires discipline. It means choosing to look at your potential instead of your past mistakes. It means deciding that your desire for a better life is more important than your fear of looking silly or failing. When you combine a clear focus with a deep sense of gratitude, you become an unstoppable force in creating the reality you choose. While understanding energy and subconscious scripts is essential, the book argues that none of these tools will work if you do not have a solid foundation of self-love. This isn't the superficial kind of self-love often discussed in popular culture. It is a deep, fundamental respect for who you are and a commitment to your own growth. The author suggests that most of our problems, from financial struggles to unhappy relationships, stem from the fact that we don't truly believe we are worthy of the things we desire. When you don't love yourself, you create a ceiling for how much success you will allow into your life. You might work incredibly hard, but if deep down you feel like a fraud or believe you aren't good enough, you will find ways to trip yourself up just as things start getting good. Radical self-love is about deciding that you are awesome simply because you exist. It is about celebrating your quirks and recognizing that your unique perspective is exactly what the world needs. A key part of this process is silencing the inner critic. We are often our own harshest judges, saying things to ourselves that we would never say to a friend or even a stranger. The book encourages us to catch these negative thoughts and replace them with affirmations that reinforce our value. It's about being as kind to yourself as you would be to a small child learning to walk. By choosing to love yourself unconditionally, you remove the internal resistance that keeps you from reaching your high vibration goals. For example, many people hold themselves back because they are waiting to be perfect before they launch a project or pursue a dream. But the book argues that waiting for perfection is just another way of saying you don't love yourself enough to allow for growth and mistakes. Self-love means giving yourself the permission to be a beginner and to be messy, knowing that your worth isn't tied to your immediate results. Now we move to the next point, which explores the internal battle between your desire for growth and the part of your mind that desperately wants to stay the same. Navigating the conflict between the ego and the higher self. As you begin to practice self-love and shift your energy, you will inevitably run into a wall of resistance. The book explains this as a conflict between your higher self and your ego. Your higher self is the part of you that is connected to universal energy. It is limitless, confident, and knows that anything is possible. Your ego, however, is the physical manifestation of the big snooze. It is the part of you that is terrified of change and obsessed with what other people think. The ego lives in a world of scarcity and comparison. It believes that if someone else wins, you lose. It tells you that you need to be better, faster, or richer than everyone else to have value. Most importantly, the ego is addicted to certainty. It would rather you stay in a miserable job that you understand than move toward a dream job that feels unpredictable. Whenever you try to make a significant change, your ego will scream at you, using logic and common sense to try and talk you out of it. Understanding the ego's tactics is vital because it allows you to see your fear for what it actually is, a sign of growth. The author points out that if you aren't a little bit scared, you probably aren't doing anything that will actually change your life. The ego uses fear as a tool to keep you in your comfort zone. When you recognize this, you can start to treat the ego like a fearful roommate. You can acknowledge its concerns, but you don't have to let it make the decisions. Living from your higher self means choosing faith over fear. It means trusting your intuition even when it doesn't seem logical to the outside world. This shift requires a constant awareness of which voice you are listening to. Are you making a choice because you are inspired and excited, or because you are afraid of what might happen if you don't? Learning to distinguish between the two is the difference between living a life of design and a life of default. Now we move to the next point, which focuses on the necessity of letting go of the past to make room for the future. The power of forgiveness and letting go. One of the heaviest weights we carry is the weight of past resentments, whether they are directed at others or at ourselves. The book makes a compelling case that holding on to anger or guilt is one of the lowest vibration activities you can engage in. It acts like an anchor, keeping you tethered to the very version of your life that you are trying to leave behind. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as an act of condoning someone else's bad behavior. However, the author explains that forgiveness is actually a purely selfish act, and a necessary one. It is about releasing the energy that is tying you to a past event so that you can use that energy to create your future. When you refuse to forgive, you are essentially giving your power away to the person or situation that hurt you. You are allowing the past to dictate your current frequency. This concept also applies to self-forgiveness. Many of us carry a mental list of every mistake we've ever made, using it as evidence for why we don't deserve success. The book argues that you must wipe the slate clean. You did the best you could with the tools and awareness you had at the time. By forgiving yourself, you reclaim the energy you've been spending on regret and redirect it toward your new, badass life. A relatable example of this is the person who stays angry at an ex-partner for years. That anger doesn't hurt the ex, it only hurts the person carrying it, lowering their vibration and making them less attractive to new, healthy relationships. Forgiving doesn't mean the other person was right, it means you've decided that your peace of mind is more important than your grievance. Once you let go of the story of how you were wronged, you create space for a new story to begin. Now we move to the next point, where we transition from internal mindset shifts to the essential role of external action. Taking decisive action before you're ready. A major pitfall in the world of self-help is the idea that you can simply think your way to a new life. While mindset and energy are the foundation, the book is very clear that the universe also requires action. Specifically, it requires what the author calls decisive action. This is the kind of action where you commit fully, without having a backup plan or a plan B to fall back on. Many people wait until they have all the answers, all the money, or all the confidence before they start. But the book argues that the how is not your business, the what is. Your job is to decide what you want and start moving toward it with everything you've got. When you take a big, brave step, the universe responds by providing the next step and the one after that. The path reveals itself only after you start walking. Taking action is also the ultimate way to show the universe that you are serious. It's a physical manifestation of your faith. If you say you want to be a writer but never sit down to write, your vibration is out of alignment with your words. But when you start writing, even if it's bad at first, you are putting your energy into motion. You are moving from the realm of wishing into the realm of doing. The author emphasizes that you will likely never feel completely ready to do the big things. Waiting for the feeling of readiness is a trap set by the big snooze. The most successful people are often the ones who are willing to look stupid, make mistakes, and fail publicly because they know that action is the only way to get where they are going. It's about being more afraid of staying where you are than you are of making a mistake. Now we move to the next point, which addresses one of the most common areas where our subconscious beliefs and our actions clash: our relationship with money. Overcoming scarcity and mastering wealth consciousness. Money is often the area where people have the most deeply ingrained limiting beliefs. The book treats money not as a complicated economic concept, but as another form of energy. If you have a scarcity mindset, you believe there is a limited amount of wealth and that if you have more, someone else must have less. This belief creates a massive amount of resistance and keeps you vibrating at a very low frequency. The author argues that the universe is abundant and that money is simply a tool that allows you to give more, do more, and be more. To change your financial reality, you have to change your money story. You have to move from a place of fear and lack to a place of wealth consciousness. This involves recognizing the value you provide to the world and being willing to receive compensation for it without guilt. One of the biggest hurdles to wealth is the subconscious belief that wanting money is bad or unspiritual. The book debunks this by pointing out that having money allows you to support the causes you care about and live a life that inspires others. When you are struggling to pay your bills, your energy is focused entirely on survival. When you are financially free, your energy is available for creation and contribution. Developing wealth consciousness means acting as if you are already supported by the universe. It doesn't mean being irresponsible with your finances, but it does mean stopping the constant worry and talk of not being able to afford things. It's about shifting your focus from how much things cost to how much value they bring. When you align your frequency with abundance, you start to see opportunities to create wealth that were invisible to you when you were stuck in a scarcity mindset. The art of surrender and releasing the how. While taking decisive action is a cornerstone of the book's philosophy, it must be balanced with the concept of surrender. This may seem like a contradiction. How can you be both aggressively pursuing a goal and surrendering at the same time? The author explains that surrender is not about giving up or being passive. Instead, it is about doing everything you can within your power and then letting go of the outcome and the specific how of its arrival. When we cling too tightly to a specific result or a specific timeline, we create a vibration of desperation and lack. This tightness actually pushes away the very thing we are trying to attract because it signals to the universe that we don't trust the process. Surrender is an act of profound trust. It is the acknowledgement that while you are the co-creator of your life, there is a larger universal intelligence at work that might have a better, faster, or more efficient way to deliver your desires than you could ever imagine. This balance involves putting in the sweat equity, doing the research, making the calls, and showing up for the work, and then mentally stepping back. It's the difference between driving a car toward a destination and trying to get out and push the car yourself. If you are constantly stressing over why something hasn't happened yet, you are stuck in the ego's grip. If you do the work and then relax into the knowledge that it is being handled, you stay in the high vibration state of the higher self. An example of this might be someone applying for their dream job. They do the work by polishing their resume and performing well in the interview, but then they surrender the results. Instead of obsessing over the phone or checking their email every 5 minutes, which is a low vibration activity fueled by fear, they move on to the next thing with the confidence that the right opportunity will land at the right time. Now we move to the next point, which discusses the difference between merely wishing for change and making a non-negotiable decision. The power of the no matter what decision. The book draws a very sharp line between wanting something and deciding to have it. Most people spend their lives in a state of wanting. They want more money, they want a better body, or they want more adventure. But wanting is a weak, energetic state. It's a form of wishing that leaves the door open for excuses and retreat. A decision, however, is a commitment that eliminates all other possibilities. When you truly decide to change your life, you are essentially saying, I am doing this, no matter what. There is no try in a true decision. When you commit at this level, your energy shifts instantly. You stop looking for reasons why it won't work and start looking for ways to make it work. This level of commitment is what forces the big snooze to step aside. The ego can argue with a wish, but it has a much harder time arguing with a resolute, ironclad decision. The author explains that many people fail because they have a back door open. They say they want to start a business, but they tell themselves that if it doesn't work in 6 months, they'll just go back to their old job. This lack of full commitment is felt by the universe and reflected in the results. To get the big results described in the book, you have to burn the boats. You have to decide that failure is not an option and that you will keep going until you reach your goal, regardless of how many times you have to pivot or start over. This kind of decision-making is terrifying because it requires 100% responsibility. You can no longer blame your parents, the economy, or your boss for your situation. But it is also incredibly liberating. Once the decision is made, the mental energy you used to spend on should I or shouldn't I is suddenly freed up to be used for creative action and problem solving. Now we move to the next point, which focuses on the practice of getting quiet to hear the guidance of your higher self. Connecting to the source through silence and meditation. In a world that is constantly screaming for our attention, the book emphasizes the absolute necessity of silence. To navigate the journey from the big snooze to greatness, you need to be able to hear your own internal guidance. This is difficult to do when you are constantly bombarded by social media, the news, and the opinions of others. This is why the practice of meditation and spending time in nature is presented not as a luxury, but as a requirement for success. The author describes meditation as a way to check in with the source. If your thoughts are like a choppy ocean, meditation is the act of diving beneath the waves to the calm, still water at the bottom. In that stillness, you can access ideas, solutions, and a sense of peace that are unavailable to you when you are in a state of mental frenzy. You don't need to be a monk or spend hours a day doing this. Even 5 or 10 minutes of intentional silence can reset your vibration and clear your mental cache. This connection to the source is where your best ideas come from. It's where that gut feeling resides. When you are connected, you are more likely to notice the synchronicities or coincidences that the universe sends your way. You start to feel guided rather than forced. The more you practice stillness, the more you realize that the answers you've been looking for out there have been inside you all along, waiting for it to be quiet enough for you to hear them. Consider the feeling of being in the zone or in a flow state where everything seems to click. That state is much easier to access when you have a regular practice of silencing the chatter of the ego. By making space for silence, you are essentially opening a channel for universal energy to flow through you more clearly, providing the inspiration and the energy you need to take those big, decisive actions. Now we move to the next point, which looks at how your external surroundings and the people you spend time with act as a mirror for your internal reality. Curating your environment and your inner circle. While much of the book focuses on internal work, it also places a heavy emphasis on your external environment. There is a concept that we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. If you are surrounded by people who are stuck in the big snooze, people who complain, play the victim, and are afraid of change, it will be nearly impossible for you to maintain a high vibration. Their energy will constantly act as a vibrational drag on your own. The author suggests that if you want to live a badass life, you need to surround yourself with badasses. You need to seek out people who are already doing what you want to do, or at the very least, people who are as committed to growth as you are. This might mean making the difficult decision to spend less time with old friends or family members who drain your energy or dismiss your dreams. It's not about being elitist, it's about being protective of your vibration. Your physical environment matters as well. If your home or workspace is cluttered and chaotic, it reflects a cluttered and chaotic mind. By clearing your physical space, you make room for new energy to enter. Every object in your life carries a vibration. If you have things that remind you of past failures or a version of yourself that you are trying to outgrow, it may be time to let them go. This curation of your environment serves as a constant reinforcement of your new identity. When you see successful people and beautiful things around you, it becomes easier for your subconscious to accept that success and beauty are your new normal. It provides a supportive structure that holds you up when your ego tries to pull you back down into the safety of the status quo. Now we move to the next point, where we address the inevitable big leap and the fear that comes with ultimate success. Facing the fear of the big leap. As you move closer to the life you want, you will eventually reach a point where you have to take what the book calls a big leap. This is the moment of truth where you are required to step into a version of yourself that you have never been before. Paradoxically, this is often when fear is at its highest. It's not just the fear of failure that crops up, but often an unconscious fear of success, the fear of what will happen to your life, your relationships, and your identity once you actually get what you want. The author notes that many people upper limit themselves. Just as things are going well, they start a fight with their partner, get sick, or make a careless mistake. This is the big snooze making one last-ditch effort to keep you safe in the familiar territory of mediocrity. Recognizing this upper limit behavior is crucial. Instead of seeing these setbacks as signs that you should stop, you must see them as signs that you are right on the edge of a major breakthrough. Taking the big leap requires a level of faith that can feel like jumping off a cliff and trusting that you will grow wings on the way down. The book encourages you to lean into the discomfort. Fear, in this context, is simply excitement without the breath. By breathing through the fear and taking the leap anyway, you prove to yourself and the universe that you are ready for the next level. The reward for this bravery is a complete shift in your reality. Once you've taken the leap and seen that you didn't die, and that in fact, life is better on the other side, your comfort zone expands significantly. What was once terrifying becomes your new baseline, and you are ready to start the cycle again at an even higher level of greatness. As we deepen our understanding of how our internal reality shapes our external world, we have to look at one of the most powerful tools we use every single day, our language. The book makes a very strong case that our words are not just descriptions of our reality, they are the architects of it. When you speak, you are essentially casting a vote for the type of life you want to live. Your words carry a vibration that either aligns you with your higher self or anchors you back into the big snooze. Many of us are in the habit of using language that reinforces our limitations. We say things like, "I'm always broke," "I'm terrible with names," or "I never have enough time." While these might feel like factual observations, the author argues that by speaking them, you are commanding the universe to keep those situations true. You are reinforcing a negative story. The subconscious mind doesn't have a sense of humor, it takes everything you say literally. If you constantly tell yourself you are a mess, your subconscious will make sure you act like one. To shift this, we must become highly disciplined with our I am statements. These are the most powerful words in any language because whatever follows I am becomes your identity. The book suggests replacing your self-deprecating truths with affirmations that reflect the person you are becoming. This isn't about lying to yourself, it's about acknowledging your potential over your current circumstances. By changing your vocabulary, you begin to change your vibration, which eventually changes your results. For example, instead of saying, "I can't afford that," which is a statement of lack and finality, you might say, "I am currently choosing to spend my money on other things." This shift moves you from a victim of your circumstances to a person in control of their choices. It keeps the energy of abundance open rather than slamming the door shut with a negative declaration. Now we move to the next point, where we explore how the act of giving actually accelerates our ability to receive. The law of giving and the circulation of energy. One of the most counterintuitive but essential concepts in the book is the idea that to get more of what you want, you have to be willing to give it away. This is based on the principle of circulation. The universe is a constant flow of energy, and money, love, and opportunities are all part of that flow. If you try to hoard what you have because you are afraid of running out, you are essentially creating a dam in the river of your life. When the flow stops moving out, it also stops moving in. The author explains that giving is a powerful way to signal to the universe that you have more than enough. It is a high vibration act that moves you out of a scarcity mindset and into an abundance mindset. When you give, whether it is money to a cause you believe in, time to a friend, or a sincere compliment to a stranger, you are acting as a conduit for universal energy. You are trusting that there is a limitless supply and that you will always be provided for. This doesn't mean you should give until you are depleted. Rather, it means you should give from a place of joy and expansion. The intention behind the gift is just as important as the gift itself. If you give because you feel obligated or because you are secretly hoping for a specific return, the vibration is low. But if you give because it feels good to share the abundance you already have, you open up the channels for even more to come back to you, often from unexpected sources. Think of it like breathing. You cannot only inhale, you must exhale to make room for the next breath. In the same way, you must let energy flow out of your life to create the vacuum that pulls new energy in. By becoming a generous person, you align yourself with the natural abundance of the universe. Now we move to the next point, which discusses the importance of maintaining your own unique frequency and avoiding the trap of comparison. Embracing authenticity and ignoring the shoulds. In our quest for success, it is very easy to fall into the trap of looking at what everyone else is doing and trying to replicate it. We see someone else's version of a badass life and think we need to follow their exact blueprint. However, the book reminds us that your power lies in your authenticity. You were created as a unique expression of source energy, and your specific combination of talents, interests, and even your weirdness is your greatest asset. When you try to be like someone else, you are vibrating at a frequency that isn't yours. This creates a kind of static in your energy that makes it much harder to attract what you truly want. The big snooze loves comparison because it is a fantastic way to make you feel inadequate. It keeps you focused on your shoulds, the things you think you should want or the person you think you should be, rather than what actually sets your soul on fire. Living an awesome life requires the courage to be yourself, even if it doesn't make sense to the people around you. It means trusting that your desires were given to you for a reason and that you are the only one who can fulfill them in your specific way. When you embrace your authenticity, you stop competing and start creating. You realize that because you are unique, there is no competition. Nobody can do what you do exactly the way you do it. A relatable example is the person who pursues a high-paying career because that's what their family expects, even though their heart is in art or community service. By following the shoulds, they stay in a low-vibration state of resentment and boredom. The moment they give themselves permission to be who they actually are, their energy shifts, and they begin to attract opportunities that are a perfect match for their true self. Now we move to the next point, which addresses the necessity of physical self-care and play as a means of staying connected to high-vibration energy. The role of self-care, play, and joyous living. It is easy to get so caught up in the work of self-improvement and the hustle of taking action that we forget that we are here to enjoy our lives. The book highlights that joy is one of the highest vibrations there is. When you are having fun, you are in a state of complete alignment with the universe. This is why self-care and play are not just nice-to-have activities, they are essential tools for maintaining your momentum. If you are constantly pushing yourself to the point of burnout, you are operating from a place of efforting rather than allowing. You are essentially telling the universe that life is a struggle and that you have to kill yourself to be successful. This creates a low-vibration reality of exhaustion. By contrast, when you take the time to do things that make you feel good, whether it's taking a long bath, going for a hike, or playing a game, you recharge your energy and raise your frequency. The author notes that some of our best breakthroughs come when we aren't working at all. When we relax and allow ourselves to be in a state of play, we lower the walls of the ego. This is often when the higher self can finally get a word in edgewise, delivering the perfect idea or the solution to a problem we've been struggling with. Play is a way of surrendering and trusting that the universe has your back, allowing you to take a break from the steering wheel. By prioritizing your own happiness and well-being, you become more effective in every other area of your life. You show up with more energy, more creativity, and a more attractive vibe. You realize that the point of being a badass isn't just to achieve goals, it's to enjoy the process of living. As we bring our journey through the core principles of this book to a close, it is important to take a moment and reflect on the distance we have covered. We began by peering into the shadows of the subconscious mind, uncovering the big snooze that has likely been running your life from behind a curtain of fear and outdated beliefs. We explored the invisible but very real world of universal energy and the absolute necessity of aligning your personal vibration with the greatness you seek. We discussed the practical tools of gratitude, self-love, and decisive action, and we even tackled the often taboo subject of wealth consciousness. But now, we must address the most important part of this entire experience: what happens next. The transition from the person you were when you started this summary to the badass you are becoming is not a one-time event. It is a continuous, moment-by-moment choice to live from your higher self rather than your ego. As author Jen Sincero emphasizes throughout her work, the real work begins when the audio stops and you step back into your daily life. It is in the mundane moments, when you are stuck in traffic, when a client says no, or when you feel the old familiar pang of self-doubt, that your transformation is truly tested. The perpetual vigilance against the big snooze. One of the most vital lessons to carry forward is that the big snooze never truly goes away. It is a part of the human experience. As you grow and reach for higher levels of success, your ego will simply find more sophisticated ways to try and keep you safe. It will use better logic, more convincing excuses, and louder alarms to try and pull you back into the comfort of your old identity. Becoming a badass means becoming a master of your own awareness. It means developing the ability to watch your thoughts and recognize the ego's voice for what it is, a frightened part of you that is obsessed with survival. When you hear that voice telling you that you aren't ready, that it's too expensive, or that people will think you're crazy, you don't fight it. You simply acknowledge it and say, "Thank you for sharing, but I'm going this way instead." This level of mental discipline is the hallmark of someone who has truly taken control of their reality. You must be prepared to be the gatekeeper of your own mind. You have to decide, every single day, that your commitment to your growth is more important than your comfort. This isn't always easy, and it isn't always fun, but it is the only way to ensure that you don't slip back into the hypnotic trance of the big snooze. The sacredness of your own permission. Throughout the book, a recurring theme is the idea that we are often waiting for someone else to give us the green light. We wait for the right timing, the right amount of money, or the approval of our peers before we allow ourselves to go after what we truly want. But the final takeaway of this philosophy is that you are the only one who can give you permission. The universe has already given you the green light by giving you the desire in the first place. The very fact that you want something, whether it's $1 million, a healthy body, or a deep sense of peace, is proof that you have the capacity to achieve it. You wouldn't have the desire if the means to fulfill it didn't also exist within you. Giving yourself permission means stopping the habit of apologizing for your dreams. It means stopping the negotiation with your potential. You have to be willing to be the person who wants what they want and isn't afraid to say so. When you stop looking for external validation and start trusting your own internal guidance, you become a powerful magnet for everything you need. The universe responds to confidence, not to hesitation. Living is a vibrational match for your future. To maintain the momentum you've built, you must treat your vibration like a sacred flame. You now know that your frequency determines your reality. This means that your primary job, above and beyond any specific task on your to-do list, is to stay in a high vibration state. Practice gratitude constantly, not just for the big wins, but for the small comforts and even the challenges that force you to grow. Affirm your greatness. Keep your I am statements focused on your potential rather than your past. Move toward joy. Follow the things that make you feel light and excited, as these are the breadcrumbs the universe leaves for you to follow. Forgive quickly. Don't let the energy of the past clutter up your present. When you live this way, you are no longer chasing your dreams, you are allowing them to manifest. You are moving from a state of efforting to a state of flow. This doesn't mean you don't work hard. In fact, you will likely work harder than ever, but the work will feel different. It will be fueled by inspiration rather than desperation. You will find that opportunities start to find you, and coincidences begin to happen with startling frequency. The ripple effect of your greatness. Finally, it is worth considering why doing this work matters so much, not just for you, but for the world. When you choose to wake up from the big snooze and live as a badass, you are not just improving your own life. You are giving everyone else around you the unspoken permission to do the same. A person living their truth and following their passion is one of the most inspiring sights on the planet. By becoming the best version of yourself, you become a beacon for others. You show them that it is possible to break free from fear, to create wealth, and to live with a sense of purpose. Your success is a service to the world because a world full of happy, fulfilled, and abundant people is a fundamentally different world than the one we see in the news. You were not put on this earth to be mediocre. You were not here to pay bills and then die. You were created by a universal source that is infinite, creative, and expansive, and you carry that same energy within you. To deny your greatness is, in a sense, to deny the source that created you. Final exhortation: love yourself. If you remember nothing else from this summary, remember the most foundational command of the entire book: love yourself. Love yourself like you are the most incredible person you've ever met, because you are. Love yourself enough to take the risks. Love yourself enough to forgive your mistakes. Love yourself enough to demand a life that makes you feel alive. When you have a foundation of radical self-love, everything else, the money, the relationships, the career, falls into place. You have the tools. You have the knowledge. And now, you have the responsibility to act. The version of your life that you've been dreaming about is not a fantasy, it's a blueprint for your future reality. The only thing standing between you and that reality is your decision to start, right now, exactly where you are, with what you have. Go out there and be the badass you were born to be. The universe is waiting for you to show up.